My name is Sandy Garcia, and I am a platform developer with the TRIRIGA team, and I'm going to talk briefly about the object migration enhancements made for 3.5. Here's the agenda. We'll talk briefly about object migration in general, and then we'll talk about the changes that were made to handle the UX framework, a couple of enhancements made to object migration to support running a workflow after a successful OM import, and then some enhanced modified by support. Object migration is what we use to migrate metadata from one environment to another. You can migrate some data, but we advise you to only migrate setup data or one-time data. Some of the key features and components of the object migration include the object finder, which helps you locate the objects you want to put into a package, find dependencies, which helps you find the dependent objects for a specific object. For instance, if you have a form that you want to put into your package, you can find dependencies and all the dependent objects. For example, the business object, module, workflows, all the things that make the form whole. Export is what you use to create your package. In the target environment, you would use validate, and validate would make sure that your package is consistent and can be imported into the target environment, that it's not missing objects that are dependent. Compare is what you use to see differences between the target environment and what is in the package. And import is what you use to bring in the data from the package. Object migration log is available to help you find issues or just to be able to see what has happened during the object migration import or export. The UX metadata is actually record data. That means the applications, the web components, models and views, data sources, action groups are actually records in T-tables. And so in object migration, we had to do some special handling of these to make it look like they're just regular metadata as opposed to record data. For ease of export, we have only exposed application and web components during export and in the object finder. If you add an application or web components to a package, they will show up in the navigation in the export. However, if you take that package and import it into another system, a target environment, all the UX metadata will show in the navigation. This will help in the future to be able to compare what is on the target environment versus what's in the package. For export, we have added the ability to export a complete package. You don't have to pick and choose everything. You can go to the object finder and select an application that you want to export. If you add that application to the package, the OM code will automatically add all the UX metadata dependencies. So the model and views, the data sources, action groups, and so on, will automatically be added to the package. You can also automatically add all the legacy dependencies. So for instance, the workflows and forms and queries that are used by your data sources. All you need to do is select the include dependencies is that the search criteria that is in the Object Finder will be honored. Legacy dependencies are added to the package. So if you only want to add objects that have been changed since a specific date, so dependencies that have been changed since a specific date, you can put that into the modified after field. And therefore, you won't be pulling all the dependent metadata, only things that have changed since that specific date. You can also use find dependents, and it will also honor the search criteria. On import, the UX metadata will be snapshotted prior to the import. So in essence, we will make a version of what is on the target environment before the import happens. It will also make sure that the import is clean and no objects that are not in the package or in the application remain. You will need to reapply any customizations that you have made to the UX metadata that is in the package after an import. See Article 4 in Navigating UX for some best practices. Currently, Compare is not yet supported, but it will be in a future release. A couple of enhancements that we made to object migration include being able to run a workflow after a successful import of an OM package. You may want to do this if you want to have specific workflow run or some setup data manipulated or something like that. On export, you have the ability to designate the workflow you want to run, and that workflow must be part of the package. On import, that workflow will run if the package import is successful. Prior to import, if you want to clear that workflow, you may. Please note that a record will be created, a record that is designated by the start task of the workflow. So that workflow that is designated must have a module BO or a module that with a base BO. We also enhanced the modified by support. We added support for business objects and forms and modules. That means now that modified by is now supported by business objects, forms, workflows, reports, and the UX metadata, along with some other objects. Modified by will be updated for a form and a business object when it's published, for a module when it's saved, and for a report when it's saved, and for a workflow when it's published. The modified by field has been added to the builder, so you can now see in the builder when the object was last modified, by whom, and at what date it was modified. In object migration import, we have made it consistent in that it will now always be set to the user who initiated the import, and the modified date will be set to the import date. In a clean environment now, we've made it consistent that modified by is set to the system user, and that the modified date will be unchanged from the application master. Those were the changes that were made for 3.5 for object migration. The object migration user guide has been updated to reflect this. There's also a few UX articles that have been updated and should be taken a look at, including Article 1, which gives you an overview of the UX
framework. Article 4, which includes changes for object migration and the best practices for UX. And Article 5, which includes the changes that were made because of UX. Thank you, and I appreciate your time. Have a good day.